Hello, everyone. Today is April 1st, 2021. I'm here with Waleed Asadi. Thank you for coming on the show, Waleed.
Thanks for having me, Cruz.
No problem. Waleed is an engineer, a photographer, video editor, and apparently, judging by those instruments on your wall, musician, huh?
Yeah, I was started off with music. Music was the first thing I touched. So I've been playing music since I was maybe fifth grade, and then just arts kind of was what was my passion. So I just started picking up stuff left and right as time went on.
Oh, nice. What was the instrument you picked up in fifth grade?
So I started off in piano classes. Me and my younger brother, we were doing little piano classes in a group, and that's kind of how that started. And then in middle school, I picked up cello. And then in high school, I picked up guitar and bass. So I was playing pretty much those instruments all throughout high school. And then when I left for community college, I went to Saddleback. And that's when I picked up cameras. And then when I went to San Diego, it's just a mix of all those things together.
Nice. So
Yeah,
your interest in art has evolved over the years.
I'd say so. I think just like digging into each one a little bit more and like getting to know each art as best as I can and just diving into it. Yeah.
How do you dive into, say, like if you wanted to get into something new, how would you go about diving into it?
It usually starts from like finding someone that's really good at whatever they do. And then I pique interest in what they're doing. And so I just try to learn about what they're doing and just understand their art form. And then if, let's say it's guitar, like I'll find a guitarist that I've never heard someone play like that. So I'll just listen to everything that they've made and watch all the videos on YouTube I can and just kind of like absorb their style of playing. And then I'll go attempt that style. I'm never nowhere near as good ever, but like, just try to push that type of playing.
Yes. Yeah, try to mimic someone until you can come up with your own
Yeah, exactly.
sort of flow. Did you did you re- do you have any recollections of getting into these new instruments at a young age? Because for me personally, I didn't really have much of a drive for music. And so, what was it that got you, in middle school to start experimenting with the cello and then in high school to start experimenting with guitar?
I think it's family. My mom and like her side of the family is like very musical. I think my grandfather, I didn't really know him before he passed, but he was a music teacher. And so there was always instruments around my mom's house. So her and her brothers like were always into music. So that carried through in her life and in our upbringing. So she kind of pushed us to like start piano. And then in middle school, there was an option for, orchestra or band. So I was like, oh, let's jump in the orchestra. Cool string instruments. So, and I wanted, a big one. I don't want to play a little dainty violin. So picked the big cello, played that. And then it was really the cello that like got me to dig into other music. Cause I feel like in middle school is when a lot of us kind of learn and kind of start tasting different music styles. Some of us get into, R&B or hip hop, or I got really into rock and roll in middle school, like lots of AC/DC and, Black Sabbath, stuff like that. So that's kind of what pushed guitar for me, was like listening to rock and roll and stuff like that. And I went and got my first guitar and tried to play rock and roll music because I was pretty simple. It's easier than it sounds, but or it's harder than it sounds. But yeah, that's kind of how it goes. Just digging into something and just like getting super absorbed into the music.
Nice. That's awesome that you had that experience growing up of your mom. And did they play?
Yeah, my mom to this day, like she's actually looking for a new keyboard. But yeah, my mom's always had keyboards in the house, and she'll just like, she'll be cooking or something, and she's got to let the stove run for 45 minutes. So she just goes and sits and starts playing. It's always some Arabic music, but like there's always music in the house. So
Mhm.
they kind of like became a part of me and my family.
Oh, nice. What is Arabic music and kind of what is that like? And how did,
Arabic music,
yeah,
it's like dance music. It's just like there's always like this upbeat type of rhythm. There's always like a tablet. I don't know if you know tablet, but it's
no.
like a drum that has usually has fish skin or some sort of like skin that's been pulled tight, and it's a drum, and then the back side of it's open, and they kind of sit, have it on their lap, and they'll just bang at it, hit the sides, and like the centers, you get different tones out of it. Kind of keeps the beat moving. So that's like the main part of it is like the percussion in Arabic music is very unique. And then I think Arabic music a little bit different than Western music. They have like they're called quarter tones. It's basically a note in between you know how the piano has a white key and then like a black key next to it. A quarter tone would be a note in between that. So just different types of scales that they use, and but it's mostly just like upbeat, fun, fast-paced dance music is really what I know.
Oh, nice. And growing up with that, I mean, that was a huge part of your life, your Arabic culture, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we would always have, family parties. We'd have my uncles would come over, aunts and family friends come over, and my mom would always bring out the keyboard and like start playing some music, or we have a tablet, someone would pick it up and start playing, and the night always tended to go that way. It'd be like in a big circle, everyone's sitting around, and it's a big Middle Eastern thing. I'm sure, like, most cultures in the Middle East have the same type of parties. It always ends
Yes.
up that way.
It is a Middle Eastern thing and a really nice part of the culture that, you know, that extended family kind of regularly gathering and
Yeah,
eating and dancing and, playing music and having fun. And it's, it's awesome. Kind of sad it didn't happen this last year. I'm assuming for
I
your
know.
family, my
Yeah,
family
it
it
was like,
didn't happen.
yeah, we didn't do any of that last year, and we're hoping this year because I think Ramadan's like the big time where this happens, and I think Ramadan starts next week on the 13th, so that's like the time, and everyone's getting vaccinated, so like we're hoping maybe towards the end we can have something, but we just have to wait and see if it's probably not, but we'll have to see how things go.
Wow. It starts on the 13th next week.
Yeah, next week is the first day.
Did were you practicing have you practiced and observed Ramadan your whole life?
When I was younger, I did. I went to a Islamic school for elementary school, and they didn't force us to fast, but like it was like, hey, if you want to, go for it. And my parents were doing it, my friends were doing it, so I was like, yeah, I'll fast with them. And as I got older, I kind of stopped fasting, but I still keep the whole family aspect of Ramadan. Like I'm always, try to be home with my family and like enjoy those dinners with them, and uh, I try to keep that part of it. But I don't always fast. No, I didn't keep it up my whole life. Shame.
Yeah, it's okay. Uh, so that's I guess I had two questions. One was regarding Ramadan. Are the two big rituals are you fast during the day and then in the nighttime it's a lot of you're gathering with family. Is
Yeah,
that
that's pretty much it.
is there anything else to it?
It's supposed to be a month where it's like of self-reflection and just loving and being a part of family. It's kind of like I'd say similar to Lent. You know how I think Catholics say like give up something for a period of time from Ash Wednesday till Easter. I think they have to like give up something. For Muslims, I think during Ramadan, it's you give up food really so that during the sun hours, like sun up to sundown, and then that's kind of what you give up. And then in the evening, yeah, it's just family, just being a part of family and like being there for each other. And Yeah, that's pretty much it. The big morals out of it.
Big morals.
Like those are the like what you're saying. Like those are the
Okay.
two things that I would take out of it: giving up something and learning to live without it, and then just loving the people around you.
Got it. It's like okay, like Lent in some ways, and
Yeah.
it doesn't always pass over at or it doesn't always occur at the same time, correct?
No, no, it follows the lunar calendar. So I think every year it moves back by 10 or 11 days.
Okay.
So yeah, so sometimes, it's during the winter when the sun sets at 5 and it's super easy to fast. Other times it's in the middle of summer when the sun sets at 8, so it's like miserable.
Oh man.
You know?
I remember
Part of
in
the reason to do it.
yes. I well, I remember I think when we were in high school, the Ramadans were during the summer because we had an Islamic teammate and he was fasting in the middle of Hell Week. And so we
Oh,
were
it's brutal.
it is brutal. And everyone was, the coaches were observing him and he was making sure to not overdo himself, but like that's a hell of a time to fast.
Yeah. I mean, good on them for being able to go through it. I mean, I
Yes.
know I can't.
I couldn't. And uh, my other question was you went to an Islamic school for elementary. Was that
Yeah.
in the US or in the
Yeah. It was in
okay.
Irvine.
Oh,
Yeah.
Irvine. What's
Yeah.
it called?
It's called New Horizon Elementary School.
New Horizon Elementary School. Wow. I've never heard of that. How was that school or how was your experience?
It was good. I mean, I made a lot of good friends. I keep in touch with some of them still today. Um, it was mostly the same. You learn your basics, math, science, English, all that good stuff. And then they had an Arabic class, and then they had like a Islamic studies class where you kind of like learn the history of Islam and uh, stuff like that. I'm not a very religious person, obviously. Maybe this is something I don't want to put in there, but that school kind of like, I'll tell you because we're friends, but the school kind of pushed me out of the religion because some of the teachers were like too into the religion, and like they'd say things that maybe like they would say within the village that people just say in the Middle East, and then come tell us, and I'd be like, what the hell? And then my parents would be like, no, that's not real, that's not true. So um, it was just like this big push and pull. But yeah, I'd probably just leave this out of it.
Okay. Will do.
Yeah,
That push and pull is interesting because
yeah,
it's like too much push or too much pull and it kind of turns you off.
yeah. I think the whole point that my parents put me in the school and my brother in the school was because they wanted us to learn about the religion and like they grew up in the Middle East, so they were like, this is the best way for them to learn about their culture because this is the closest thing to that environment that we'll get in California. So they did the right thing, and I definitely learned about my Arabic culture there. So, and I kind of separate culture from religion. So, like the culture itself is super important to me, and I really enjoy the Arabic culture. But then religion doesn't matter to me too much because I have Arab friends that are, some are Christian, some are atheists, some are, I don't know, I don't remember off the top of my head all of them, but it's kind of like the community itself, like we all kind of are the same in terms of the culture, and then who cares about the religion? Like we're all the same. We're all
Yes.
people.
We're all
Yeah.
people. We're all the same, regardless of, whether you practice Islam or Christianity or neither or something else.
Yeah.
That culture aspect, though, it's pretty crazy because you're both of your parents immigrated here, correct?
Yeah. Both immigrants.
What year did they immigrate?
1984, I think.
At the same time?
Yeah. I mean, they got married in Kuwait, and then they moved out to the United States together to pursue like higher education. I think they were coming out here for their master's degree. So that's that's how they did it. They wanted to, leave the Middle East and come out to America, follow the dream, the American dream.
The American dream. I, for me, I'm glad my parents did moved out
Yeah,
here. It's pretty crazy though, because you and I we're both second generation Middle Eastern Americans, and that's a huge, pretty rich culture we both our families, left behind. And I'm happy to be here in Southern California, immersed within Southern California culture. But then, like, we also have a foot in that other realm of, like, for you, it's your Arabic culture. For me, it's my Persian culture,
yeah.
which both have, really close similarities.
And I would say like having a home where I have that it's an Arabic culture at home. It made me like see similarities between friends. Like some of my closest friends are Iranian or Armenian, where it's a very similar kind of culture, but then also friends that come from, Japanese culture or like Chinese culture. When you go to their homes and they're the same as us, like there's a second generation with immigrant parents, you kind of see the way they conduct their home and you see the similarities. You're like, oh, you're kind of like me, just a little bit different, and you kind of bond with them like that. So I mean, I really liked it because it kind of gave me a big eye-opening view of this melting pot that we live in and how similar we actually are to everybody.
It is. It is a I liked it too. And you that's a great point you make. You go to a Chinese American, Japanese American friend's house and you're like, "Oh, wow, you deal with a lot of the same, kind of situations that I deal with as a Middle Eastern American." And
Yeah.
it's like incredible to see, because I would say Southern California, along with maybe like England, are the two biggest melting pots I have ever seen.
Yeah.
And, it really can erode your view of, like, if different, frankly, races are different, when really it's mostly about culture.
Hmm. Yeah, totally.
It's crazy. So, another, you continued from music out and you got into photography in college.
Yeah. So I mean, photography piqued my interest because I watch a lot of movies, and like I always loved. My favorite thing about movies was always the way the scene would look. I would always like notice little details of like color and light and framing, things like that. It always piqued my interest when I'd watch movies. So I thought, like, let's just pick up a camera and start taking pictures. And I just did it, as a hobby. My dad used to work for Canon, so he got, I think he got I think he got discounts on some cameras. So he bought himself, a very basic beginner DSLR camera, and I would I'd steal it from him, and I'd just like take it out with friends or whatever and take pictures and try to learn how to use it. And obviously Instagram came out when we were in high school, so that was like the perfect place to start posting these pictures I was taking. And I just thought it was fun, and I just did it as a hobby just to entertain myself. And then as time went on, when I moved to San Diego, I got my own camera for myself and started taking more pictures. And I just tried to pick up every style I could. So like landscape photos, portrait photos, food photography, which is the one that really stuck for me. Product photos. It's just really like, let's just take as many pictures as I can and like see what is most interesting or what I enjoy doing the most. And food for me, I enjoy the most, but I like to do, portraits or even product photos, just kind of like creating a mood and like selling that mood through the photo and then eventually video. Yeah.
That selling that mood and is a really interesting way of thinking about it.
Yeah. Because, I mean, I would always think about in a movie, you watch it and they try to show off. When you watch a movie, there's like an energy or like a vibe to the scene, right? It can feel dark or it can feel bright and happy, and it's like, how do they do that? How do you get those moods to like show? So it's really about like the color that's in the video, maybe even the color the people are wearing or the colors in the shot, the framing of the shot, things like that. So just paying attention to those little things and trying to sell that.
What movies, you said that you saw some movies that really stuck with you and made you want to get into the art. Were there any movies or scenes that particularly stick
Yeah.
out?
Oh yeah. There's so many. I don't know if you've seen. There's Drive with Ryan Gosling in it.
No, I haven't
There's
seen it.
another one. That one's a really good movie. But the colors in that and the way it's filmed, it's like you really got to pay attention while you're watching, and there's little details in it. But that one's a great movie in terms of pacing and storytelling. Also, another one with Ryan Gosling is called The Place Beyond the Pines. Just great cinematography, great shots in that movie. I really liked it. The way the movie flows. I don't want to ruin anything, but that one's a great movie as well.
When did these come
And
out?
I have no idea. I watched them like I don't know when they came out, but I remember watching them maybe 2012, 2013, like right after I graduated high school in 2012. So like around that time is when I watched them.
Got it.
Yeah.
Any other movies or scenes?
Um, yeah, off the top of my head. Those are
That
the two big ones that like really shaped Her. I don't know if you've seen Her with what's his name?
Joaquin Phoenix?
Joaquin Phoenix. Yeah, that one. That was a weird movie, but that one had good storytelling in it, and just like the framing and like the way they kind of moved the camera in that movie. That was a good one. And there was the newest one that came out. It was the World War I movie. I think it was 1918, was 1917. I don't know if you've seen that one. It won an Academy Award, I think.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, they shot the whole movie was in one. Every scene was like one go, so it was a very fluid shot. They didn't do any cuts. There was no cut from camera A to camera B. It was one camera, and they did the whole movie like that. There's only a few scenes where there's a cut, but as a viewer, you won't notice there's a cut.
Do you, as a viewer, I don't think I would ever notice. I'm not sure that I would actually notice that that was a single camera and not, cutouts from multiple cameras unless I was told that beforehand and told, watch this, it's only a straight shot. There's no cutouts. But you as a, cinematographer, do you, is that what you would call yourself as well? Is that
I would call myself a videographer. I
videographer?
don't. I feel like cinematographer is with cinema, and I just have a camera in my kitchen. I don't really know what else
Well,
to call it. Just videographer.
you, it's pretty, I don't know what the definition of cinema is, but you
Yeah,
make
me either.
pretty cinematic videos, I would say. It's
Thank you.
like there's a lot of, for anyone, we'll make sure to link to your TikTok and your Instagram, but
Okay.
the the just the quality of video along with your ability to link that with some type of music, usually some type of music that people are going to enjoy. I think it's
Yeah.
really cool, and then you bring that in with like just a recipe as well. How how did you think of, you know what drove you, like, what inspires you to create these music videos?
I love creating content. I like posting stuff because I feel like it's a way to like express myself somewhat easily. That doesn't take too much um, over the top effort. Um, so just and I love music. I mean, we talked about that, and I listen to a lot of music, and when I get really into a song or something, I kind of maybe think about what that song, what emotion that song gives me, and I kind of play out like scenarios in my head about where that music takes me. Um, and then food, I feel like everyone has a connection to food. So just kind of like taking fun, light music and adding it to food, I just feel like it makes it an enjoyable thing for everyone to watch, and I get to eat good food out of it. So why not?
Absolutely. And you said it doesn't take an over the top amount of effort. What do you mean by that?
So with videography, um, the camera sensors are just so powerful these days that if you just put the right settings on your camera, it's going to capture a nice looking video. You just need to know what settings to put it on. You know what I mean? So that crazy cinematic look, the camera is doing 90% of it. And then when I put that video into Premiere to start editing, that's where I get to have fun, and I can just play with color wheels and, um, lighting, bringing up whites and blacks, and kind of I get to play and create the look I want. But in terms of quality, the camera captures all of that. It's not really me, right? So just knowing how to set up the camera to capture that it gives me a good base to start being creative with. But if I'm trying to play, guitar, I got to spend hours and hours of practice before I can get to a point um, where I'm like free to like express what sounds in my head to come out through my hands. Does that make sense? I think.
In a in a way, so yes, that does make sense in this sense that the camera is doing a lot of the manual labor of creating a high quality video for you.
Yeah, it's just
Where
this technology has gotten so good that it just, it can capture a pretty clean, extremely clean image, and then I go in there and just post process it. I don't have to like figure out how to get the clean image. Just basic setup and then start shooting.
what softwares do you use for your post processing?
I have the Adobe suite, so for video I use Premiere Pro, and then for all my photos I post, I put them in Lightroom to get the colors out, and then I'll put them into Photoshop after to like retouch some smudges. Maybe there's like water droplets or smudges I want to get rid of, so I'll just put them in Photoshop, get rid of them like that.
Lightroom? What is that, a software?
Yeah, Lightroom, Adobe Lightroom.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a software. It just lets you control the colors in your photo. So if you want to make things more saturated, maybe bring out the red of a tomato more, or desaturate yellow because you don't like the yellows in that photo, you can kind of control those things.
Got it. So a lot of the editing is done in Adobe Acrobat Pro or
Premiere Pro.
Premiere Pro, and then
Yeah.
the colors are done in Lightroom.
So Premiere Pro is for videos only, and then Lightroom is for photos, and Photoshop is for photos.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you
They both primarily do the same thing, just one for video, one for photos.
That makes sense. And do you put your photos in your video at the end or
No, videos are just only video. I don't. I mean, I can add photos to them if I wanted to, but I usually just keep it as video, and then I'll post the photos I take along the way.
okay. How has your process come along through creating these food videos, these food music videos? Has your process become more fluid?
Oh yeah, I have a pretty streamlined like method now. So that stand that you're using to hold your mic up right now, I got one of those, and I use that now to take some like top-down video. I use this little guy for that.
Nice.
This is called an Osmo Pocket. It's like a tiny little 4K video camera. Um, it's like a GoPro, pretty much, just different shape. and I can just put it straight down, and it's got a gimbal, so it keeps everything real steady, and I can just take top-down video. And I put it on that guy, and then I've got, I think you can see it. It's kind of back there, but I got a little tripod and a monitor for my camera itself. So the camera is, the really cinematic looking one that's sitting right in front of me, filming, and I have a monitor to see nice and big what the image is going to look like
Nice.
instead of guessing afterwards.
Were you guessing before, or did you have you?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was guessing before, and yeah, I mean, I've made a lot of videos, and I haven't posted all of them. Like, there's a lot of videos that just did not get released because it's either too bright or it's too dark or the colors are off or something's messed up or maybe the shutter is not set properly so it doesn't look right. So a lot of mistakes.
That's, it takes a lot of mistakes to get to high quality, content.
Yeah.
You said that you love releasing content. Did you mean you like to release content publicly?
Yeah. Yeah. I love to post on social media and like share what I like to do. So I don't know how, I think the way I would explain it is like I like to create things, and that's the perfect medium to share the things I love. So that's why I do this kind of work, because I feel like it's a cool way to kind of, it gives you a look into my head and like the way I see things, because I'm just creating what's in my head.
Yes, and I appreciate that. I think a lot of people appreciate that.
Thanks.
And it's a little brave of you to do that. I mean, do you think so at all? Or
A little bit. I mean, there's a bazillion people posting the same kind of content, and some a lot better, some a lot worse. So I feel like I'm just doing something I like to do. I don't really feel any pressure about that it has to be top notch or better than everybody. It's just kind of I'm happy with it. So I'm like, here you go. This is what I made. I'm happy with this. Let me share it with everybody. Let me get some feedback. What do you guys think? Pretty much. That's kind of how I go about it.
nice. That's a good attitude. A lot of people can get caught up in, the people other people's reactions to it. Your content is awesome though. So it's like it's got to be mostly positive reactions.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say you don't like food, right?
Yes, food
That's
and
part of why I picked food, because it's like a universal language. If it looks good and if it sounds good, then you're gonna like it, right?
absolutely. Is there any other content that you've posted or you've shared or you've considered sharing?
Music. I would love to like bring that out, but I'm not. I'm kind of just like playing right now for my own peace of mind. I'll just play guitar maybe 30 minutes to an hour a few times a week just to do it for myself. But eventually I'd like to start, recording what I make and putting that out there. Uh, that'd be something I'd like to do eventually. But it's just like a lot of time and effort's got to go into that. So, but eventually I'd like to do that. And then also I want to start doing more, call it lifestyle, but just like outdoor filming outside. So being able to like, how a movie is. A movie's usually shot in a scene, like an outdoor area or like a set or an indoor or something. Just being able to get comfortable, like filming outside. I think I get a little self-conscious um, walking around with my gear, just because I feel like it brings attention to me, and I don't like people looking at me with like a camera and like a what's it called, a gimbal, like a steady cam. I end up walking around with like a backpack and lenses, and I'm just like, everyone's looking at me like, oh, this guy, this Instagram guy shooting content. Like, I don't like that attention. So I'm trying to like break out of that shell a little bit.
Absolutely. And I think if you do bring, have you done that? Have you brought your whole setup out and filmed outside yet?
Yeah, I've done it, and it always comes out as a terrible video. And it's like,
Wow.
I can tell because I'm not comfortable. So I get nervous that like people are watching me and I like can't really get comfortable and start shooting, you know? So I end up coming home, I throw the shots up on my computer. I'm like, oh, this is all trash. Like I can't use this.
And
But it's a learning experience.
yes, I'm sure, filming in an uncomfortable situation is definitely going to make you a better videographer.
Yeah. And I always worry, what if like some guy is like, hey, I don't want to be in your video. Like, what, like, don't get me in the shot. I don't know. I get this weird thought that, I don't want someone random filming me and stuff. So I always wonder, like, are they thinking that? Most likely they don't care, but sometimes, you never know.
I was thinking about that, kind of recently. I feel like the news and like most, public sort of, if they're filming a public shot, there's a lot of times when there's random people, random cars, even license plates in the film being broadcasted on television, and no one's
Right.
approval is getting taken there. It's just like
Yeah.
there's anything, you could have my face on there, throw it up there, and I don't think you need. Do you need approval, or I don't?
I don't know. I think for like a content creator, if the person in the shot is like the subject and it's easy to recognize them, then they need approval. But if it's like a silhouette or like a shadow or someone in the distance, you can't really tell who it is. I don't. It doesn't really matter.
Okay, got it.
And especially if you're making money off of it, then it really matters.
Got
But
That's what
yeah,
changes. If you make money off of it, then people start caring.
yeah, because that's them in the picture in the video that they deserve that money, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So, like you said, but if you're the one bringing out the camera do you think that the reason for the low quality video when you do bring it back is because you're actually uncomfortable, so you're unwilling to, get the best shot possible because you're not in your comfort zone? And do you think if you were to get more comfortable, you could create some high quality outdoor content?
Yeah, like when I bring it back home, it'll be issues like the video is like the camera's like slightly angled the wrong direction. And because I was so aware of my surroundings, I wasn't paying attention to the video that I don't notice these things. And I come back, I'm like, oh, it just doesn't look right. So I don't use it. I think it's just being able to like get more comfortable outside and like stop caring about what people might be looking at me and thinking and just kind of going for it. I think that'll, bring out some more fun and outdoors type content, some lifestyle stuff. Because when I'm not in the kitchen, like, dude, I'm never home. I'm always outside. So just trying to get myself to like film outside, in the areas I am. I'm not always like isolated. If I'm isolated, like if I went to like Joshua Tree or Yosemite, I'd probably be fine because there's not really any people there, right? If you're hiking on a trail, maybe you get like one or two people pass you by every so often. But I'm usually by the beach somewhere, and that's like the most populated area. So it's like there's a bazillion people looking at me, and I just get self conscious. They're probably 100% they don't care. It's just like a mental barrier I gotta get over.
No, they're definitely looking at you. I yeah,
Yeah.
I I got some LinkedIn photos a couple like months ago, and I did it in an outdoor area in an outdoor park, and everybody stared. And so I can understand. Yeah, it was really weird actually. Felt very uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's why I have this thing, this big black drop backdrop, is so that if I ever want portraits or something, I just use that as my background.
Nice.
Forget going outside. Yeah.
But what type of lifestyle, what do you mean when you say lifestyle film?
So just like the little things in life that we do, like everybody takes, I mean, at least in Southern California, everyone gets a burrito and eats it at the beach. on a blanket or like on a chair or something. Like I guarantee all of us have gone to Salt Creek with like a burger or a burrito or something, kicked it on the grass up there and like ate it and hung out. So how do I capture that event, something so small that we all do in our life, but like make it, sell it as like this is home, like this is this, because that's what I love to do. So how do I sell that into a 60-second video? You
Into a
know,
mood, as you said.
yeah, into a mood. How do I sell that like Southern California vibe with um, the nice cinematic looking video and everything, like the lighting's good. How do I do that? What angles do I shoot? What lens do I use? And stuff like that. How do I tell that story so that it flows? Because I mean, I could just take a bunch of random clips, but it's got to flow from shot to shot to shot, right?
Do you
So
do you think that flow would be a little bit more difficult to attain in a, or you already have the experience, I'm sure, in a non food film setting. So are you able to create a more fluid video easier with your food filmography than, say, if you're to go outside and attempt to film a scene on the beach?
a little bit, yeah. Because with food, it's a recipe. You have to go step one to step 10. Like you got to follow it. So before I make any video, when I was doing the slow motion videos with music, the way I would do those was I would pick the song first and I'd just listen to it and I'd try to get like a feel for like how do I want it to flow? How am I going to transition from this step in the recipe to that step in the recipe? So it's a little easier to kind of set that up because you're told this is the shot you need. So it's how are you going from shot one to shot two? If you're going outdoors, it's not as straightforward. There's no recipe. It's kind of like it's up in the air. So you have to figure out what order it goes in first, and then how do you transition between each shot. It's like an extra step that you have to think about.
That's a lot of preparation you have to do beforehand.
Yeah, it's a lot of, yeah, video I've learned is a lot of prep work. You can't, if you want it to flow properly, you can't just walk outside with a camera and just start shooting. You kind of have to know you have to know what you're creating before you go create it. And having kind of like a framework as you work, it makes it flow a lot more smoothly. I mean, obviously when you're out there, things are going to change. You might be like, hey, let's try this time. So there's room for like, there's room to like try different things, but having that kind of guideline and framework to tell you how to go through it, definitely you need that for sure. That's the biggest thing I learned.
Absolutely. That guide, and like you said, there can be some wiggle room within that guide and some flexibility, but I think that idea of having a guide to, it's interesting because you'd think that having something so rigid, like saying, okay, I need it to start here and then it'll flow into this scene and then we'll go here, and there can be a little leeway, but it really has to go like this. it it seems rigid, but it seems like some of the best creative content comes from that sort of structured thinking, and
Yeah.
not going in there just with a free for all saying we're going to create some shit today.
Yeah. It's, yeah, definitely like saying you're going to create some shit and then just walking outside. I'm not that talented to just make it happen. I have to go in there with a plan. And if I don't have a plan, yeah, it's garbage, unreleased content.
Unreleased content, nice. For
Yeah.
some maybe still released, but you have a much
Mhm.
higher bar of quality.
Yeah, I expect too much out of myself, maybe, but it's okay.
Nice. It's okay. I mean, it's gotten all of us some enjoyable 30-second clips of some very delicious food.
Have you seen the new videos? I've tried putting like a microphone near what I'm doing. I'm trying to capture those sounds. I don't know if you've seen them yet.
I haven't noticed the microphone. I'll check it out right after this.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
What are you trying to attain with that?
So I'm trying to hop on YouTube now, and YouTube is like long form content, really. So instead of me typing up a recipe, step one, step two, I'm trying to make like a 10 to 15, maybe 20-minute video that is the whole process of like me cooking from start to finish. And you can just sit there, and if you like it, you can just sit and watch and enjoy it and like listen to, you can hear the sounds of like chopping the onion or sizzling something in oil in the pan, something like that. And you can just sit back and enjoy the calming video. That's what I'm trying to go for. Or if you just want the recipe, just skip through it and see what I'm doing and write it down, and you got it. You can literally watch me do the whole thing. So that's why I'm trying to capture audio now, because I'm trying to put that on YouTube and then make kind of short versions of that and posting those as like the promo video of like the quick, here's the highlight reel of the whole video basically.
Have you posted these on YouTube?
I did two. I only have two up right now. So I did this is like with a new setup. So I did a simple just avocado toast. And then last week I did like a creamy tomato soup with grilled cheese. Just something really easy to cook.
I saw both of their, and I saw those on Instagram. I didn't realize you created a YouTube video. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, go for it. And even on Instagram, just bump up the volume. You'll hear all the sounds.
Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah.
That type of content, that soothing content, I think people like are dying for that. Like something as simple as hearing a knife against a chopping board, or hearing the something sizzling in oil.
I can't take credit for like pushing myself to do that. Do you know Kevin Kadem? Remember him? He's the guy. He's like, dude, you have to do it like this. He's like, get on YouTube and like film it this way. And I put that off for so long, and I saw him the other day. I stopped by my parents and I saw him the other day, and he was like, when are you gonna do it? Like, just go do it. So finally I was like, no more excuses. Like, let's make this happen. So I gave it a shot, and I think it turned out pretty good.
Nice.
So thanks, Kevin, for pushing me to do it that way.
All right. Next time I see Kevin, I'll thank him. Hopefully we can play soccer soon, now that everyone's vaccinated.
Yeah, I think the soccer league's opening up again too for them. But
oh, wow.
Yeah.
So all of this, your interest in music and your filmography, it is all, quote unquote, your hobby. I'm sure it's much more than a hobby for you, but it's not technically your career, correct?
No, it's not my career. It's called a passion project, I guess.
Passion project?
Yeah, just something that I like to do. It makes me happy. Like, I enjoy it. It brings fulfillment,
Yes.
So that's why I keep doing it.
And that's huge. Even, sometimes a career, even if it is fulfilling, isn't fulfilling in every way that we need. That's kind of even in a working sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like that creativity spark you have, I'm sure it probably can't be, sparked with your work. And just to clarify for everyone, you're an engineer, correct?
Yeah, I'm an electrical engineer.
Nice. What type of electrical engineer?
I work in the semiconductor industry. So I'm actually switching to a new job next on the 12th. I'm starting at a new company.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. But the company I'm moving to, what they do is they make, it's RF, like radio frequency parts, that basically it's how your 5G works and how your LTE works and how Wi-Fi works. It's things like that. So there's silicon chips inside the technology, and I just work on a very small piece of that whole puzzle.
So this isn't the semiconductor industry anymore that you're
No, it is a semiconductor industry. Yeah, they make all these chips are built on silicon, which is a semiconductor.
Okay.
And what happens is those chips come in from the fab where they make them. I think I'm not sure where they make theirs, but it's usually either China, Korea, somewhere like that, or Japan. And those chips get sent to us on it's like bare silicon. And what I do is I work with the designers who created this next gen technology, figure out okay what is it supposed to do and what should I be looking for, and then I go and test them. So these are like tiny micrometer. You need a microscope to see it, and you put these like needle probes on some metal, and you run electrical tests on it.
Wow. So you're doing a lot of testing currently?
Yeah, a lot of testing. I work in a lab.
Wow. And you've been working in a lab. This is your current job. This isn't what you're going to go into next week.
No, it's the same for both. So the company I've been with for the past 5 years, I worked in a lab, and the company I'm going to, it's the same thing. I'm working in a lab. It's just completely different technology.
Okay. So are you going to be testing semiconductors on a nanoscale still?
Yeah.
Okay.
hmm
This is
It's
just
just it's just what is in that nano scale, the micro scale, just the technology that's in that silicon is different.
okay. Got it. And out of curiosity, what was your old company doing?
They were again, what they were doing was making power density like solutions. You know how you have your laptop charger always has that brick in the middle, that
Yes.
big fat brick in the charging cable. That's a
Yes.
transformer that takes the voltage out of the wall and converts it down so that the power isn't overwhelming to your laptop so it doesn't burn it. And what we were doing was trying to get rid of that brick, turn that brick into a tiny, tiny chip that can sit inside your computer. That way your charging cable is just a cable.
Wow. Isn't that a power supply? Am I incorrect? To
Yeah, power supply, and the technical term is power density.
okay. So you
Yeah.
create a micro power density chip.
Yeah, just a small chip that can take the wall from when you plug into the wall, it takes the voltage out of the wall or the power supply from the wall and drops it down so that it can supply your component, your phone or laptop without burning it up.
It goes from AC to DC, correct? With
There's a little bit of both. So there's AC to DC and DC to DC happening.
oh wow. So there's DC to DC happening in through that as well.
Yeah.
Oh
hmm
wow. And are they gonna try and sell that to like, or I don't know, to like big companies like Dell and
I mean, that's probably the goal. I'm not sure.
that's
I mean, I
probably
don't know if I probably can't talk about it, but
yeah.
I mean, that's the goal is to try to get in with a big company and sell it. Like they want to make money, right?
Yeah. That mean if that sounds like a very profitable if that can be done, a new way of going about portable computing.
Yeah. And I'm sure we're going to see a lot of that this decade. You're going to see that big change. No more transformers, no more big bricks. It's going to be all nice, sleek cables.
Oh wow. The industry of electronics is going to change dramatically. I mean, over the next 10 to 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
I people, over these last 10 years, I think software had a really huge, you know, 10 to 12, the software had a huge push, it just kind of evolved into something that, you know, it we could I think it was foreseen, but just really incredible power has come out of it. And I think one of the new, steps in technology is going to be that integration between hardware and software and getting
Yeah.
some things that are pretty smart and pretty powerful physically.
I mean, you're definitely going to see a big continuous push with software, and hardware is just getting smaller and smaller. So we're going to start seeing. I think because the hardware is getting smaller, that, your phone, you'll be able to add more hardware in the same footprint. So my guess is you'll probably start seeing cool sensors inside of your equipment, maybe like an accelerometer inside your phone, or like a what's it called, like a temperature, like a thermometer inside your phone, things like that. I guarantee you're gonna start seeing cool sensors like that in your phone or laptop or whatever it might be.
Wow. You can check the humidity percentage. Just
Yeah, like exactly where you're standing.
yeah. Phew. That I mean, it can be overkill to some point unless they make it like, do you know what the point of the three camera iPhone is?
Yeah, yeah. So they use those cameras as like a depth. They have software where one camera is perfectly focused on, let's say, you, and everything in your background is perfectly focused as well. And then they use the second camera to blur everything, and then they superimpose them on top, so you're in focus and the background's blurred. And that's what portrait mode is.
Oh, okay. What so portrait mode? I have a camera or phone with one picture. So when I think of portrait mode, I think I'm thinking of pano and not I don't really know what portrait mode is.
So yeah, pano is just like you're taking a wide image, and what it does is it stitches each edge together. That's why it has that arrow, and it tries to get you to follow that arrow along the line.
Yes. That's
Yeah,
pano,
because it wants,
not portrait.
yeah, that's pano, and that's
Okay.
because it wants to stitch the image like as best as it can throughout it. But portrait is, as if you're taking a portrait of a person, where usually the person is like really crisp, super sharp, very in focus, and then anything in front of them or behind them, like the depth of field is completely blurred, so you can't really tell what
Oh,
that
oh.
is.
So then the background is just nothing. It's transparent, the background.
The background, not transparent, it's just blurry. It's just super out of focus. Like,
Okay.
when, like in a movie where they have a light and the light's like just this big blurry light in the back. That's what I'm
Yes.
talking about. Yeah.
That makes all right. Now I understand the point. And okay. So that's the second. And I understand there being two cameras because then also depth perception too, correct? They
Yeah.
can,
hmm
but do you know the point of having three cameras?
I don't know. I don't have that iPhone, so I'm not sure what that third camera is doing. It might be like they use it as maybe a separate, like a wide angle, maybe, or it's connected to a separate sensor that has better slow motion capability. I really don't know. I haven't looked into it.
No, neither have I. But
Yeah.
I didn't know about, I knew the depth perception because for ECE, my senior project was actually a depth perception through disparity, quote unquote. That was the title. And we had multiple cameras on a bar and just we were getting the depth perception of that through uh MATLAB software that we wrote up.
You went through ECE too?
Yeah, I was in the EC department at UCSD.
Oh, no way.
Yes.
Me too. I had no idea.
Yeah, I was an electrical engineering mate. I actually wanted to talk to you about it, about your experiences within the EC department.
Yeah.
How did you like it? Did you take
I mean,
35, 45,
oh,
and
of course.
65?
I took 35 and failed and had to retake it, like everybody else, other than the smart kids.
Very
But yeah, I
tough
took all
class.
the. Yeah, that was a brutal class. That was the weeder class because they wanted to get all the weak ones out of there.
That was. Did you take 15?
Yeah, the C programming class.
That was also a weeder class too.
Yeah, that was brutal too. I
That
hate
was
programming.
that that was tough. That wasn't even like that was like down to and that's the first one too. So it's like I took that I think my winter quarter, but I know a lot of freshmen who took that their fall quarter, never knew anything about programming, and then they get thrown into this C course on programming. It's like
Yeah,
later, a third of you gone. And then EC35 comes on, another third of you gone.
yeah. My class when I took 35, 60% of the class failed.
That's terrible. Do you remember
Like we,
who your
yeah, it was the Croatian Radic.
Radic? That was mine too.
Dude, he's brutal, man.
He was brutal, and he just was like he didn't care. He was that professor that like you see in the movies that's just like, I don't care about you. I'll just take the smartest one of you and you can be my TA and the rest of you just get out.
Yeah, pretty much. He kicked. I remember. I'll never forget. He kicked the guy out of class because he wasn't taking notes.
Really?
And he's like, "You take notes in my class," and he literally kicked him out of class. Everyone was like, "What the hell?"
Damn.
Everyone's like,
That
"Oh, afraid," you know.
yes. Wow. I can imagine. There was also, I mean, that was only the lower the lower division courses. Then you get into like 103,
I
102
love
was
that
it for
class.
these? You loved 103?
103 is what I do for work.
Yes. What who was your professor?
She was new. I don't remember her name. It was a Turkish lady. I really don't remember her name, but she was great. She was super nice. She really knew her stuff, and like she taught very well. Like she really knew how to explain everything.
Wow.
And while I was in that class, I was interning at the company I work for, right? Like I've been working at. So I was working in semiconductor and I was taking the semiconductor class. So that was my favorite class.
Really? That's awesome to hear. That was a I took it with a Iranian professor, Daya, and
Oh yeah, Daya. Yeah, he was
yeah,
cool.
he's cool. I like him, but a lot of my friends failed that class and it was tough. And what did you enjoy about 103?
That I knew what I was doing during the class. I feel like most of the ECE, I didn't know anything. Like I would go into class and I wouldn't know what the hell the professor was talking about. But when I took 103, I was already interning at this company for like 6, 7 months. So I knew what it was I was working on, and I had all these engineers that knew their stuff. So if I had any questions, I'd just ask them, and they'd give me the best expert. I basically had my own private tutors 5 days a week that I can just ask these guys questions.
That's awesome.
So yeah, the picture kind of like really fit itself for that class. Everything else just went over my head.
Did you go into the semi or like what was your depth for EC
My depth was optics and photonics.
optics and photonics? What was
Yeah,
the reason you chose that?
lasers. You get to shoot lasers. So I was like all about the lasers. That was
Wow.
literally it. It's
Did
very childish of me to pick that, but yeah,
did you shoot lasers?
I shot so many lasers. You have no
Wow.
idea. The
What
labs
types?
with types of lasers,
Yeah.
every color you can think of.
Is that how
But
you just categorize
the labs
lasers by
basically
colors?
like say that again.
Do you categorize lasers by colors? Is that how
I mean,
like the fit?
but no, the lasers they categorize them by like power, the amount of
Okay.
power coming out of it. So when you go higher power, the wavelength changes. Wavelength changes, you get a different color.
Oh wow. Okay. Then that makes sense. So then it is really categorized by color.
Kind of, yeah. But you can also step down the power. So it like the easiest way to think of it is color changes power, really.
And so can you explain a laser in the simplest terms possible?
Yeah, the simplest terms possible. You have a semiconductor that has electrons in it, right? And what you do is you pump charge or a current in through that semiconductor. And when it's going, it's a PN junction. That's not simple, but you have a positive and a negative side. And when you throw current from one side to the other, as it's transitioning in that middle part, a photon gets released because there's so much energy. It's like heat gets released. So that photon gets propelled, and that's your laser. That's the light that you're seeing. So
Is
you have
it
a current flowing, and then there's just light shooting out of from that junction.
is it a single photon?
No, it's like you can when you do the calculations, you do it as you can use it as a single photon, or you can categorize it as a wave. Just depends on which way you're looking at it.
Got it.
But it's usually just like a stream of photons.
And a photon slash proton neuron, they are waves too, right? Like,
Depends on how you're using them. They can be looked at as a wave or a particle.
okay, got it.
Yeah.
And when you were shooting these lasers, what did you shoot them at?
So we did. I think the coolest lab we did was we made holograms. So we brought in an object from home that we wanted to turn into a hologram. Yeah, this is nuts, dude. It was nuts. So I brought in a Hot Wheel, and you basically take the Hot Wheel, you put it on a stand or wherever, somewhere it sits nice, and you put this piece of film behind it. Think of it like, remember like film cameras that has a piece of film where the image gets burned onto the film, and then you have to develop it.
Yes.
Same exact thing. So you have a car, and then you have this piece of film, and the lasers go through the system, and then the way it ends up hitting the car, and then the light bounces off of the car into the film, and the film is able to like hold the data in like a three-dimensional way. So when you develop the film and you look at it, you shine a light into it, it looks like it's 3D. So you can like see the three-dimensional hologram. It's not just a 2D image.
Wow. I that sounds incredible to create. Did you create your Hot Wheel hologram?
Yeah, we created the hologram. Obviously, like we had the professors and lab techs in there helping us get it set up, but we got to create our own, and we had a hologram. It was a tiny piece of film. It was like smaller than this, you know. It was a tiny
Okay.
thing that you have to like look into to see what it is you're doing.
Is was everyone's piece really small? Was that a requirement?
Yeah, because the film was only so big that we could use. I guess that film's expensive, so they don't want to waste it on students, right?
Especially undergrad students.
Yeah, they don't care about us.
No, only if you're a grad student and
Yeah,
helping them with one of their multi-million dollar projects.
yeah, pretty much.
So, what did you think about the EC department?
Um, I thought they were really brutal, is what I thought. Like I thought the classes were hard, and there wasn't much like um, wasn't very approachable. Like you couldn't just go to your professor and like they would help you. Either they were too busy to catch, they didn't want to help you because they were just working on their own thing, and also TAs were like useless to me, in my opinion. I didn't really use them, so I really had to depend on reading the books to figure out how to get through the class, and taking like practice tests and looking up like solutions. I'd go backwards. I'd see a question and I'd figure out the answer. I'd find the solution, and I'd work backwards to figure out how they got it. That was the only way to get through it for me.
For me as well, I asked you that because I felt fairly similarly about the EC department. I thought, you know, it was very tough to get through it. There weren't very many helpful resources available. And, I didn't even really think of it in that term until my depth was actually software systems. So I went into the CSE department and took like their lower division courses, and that was my depth for the EC department.
Okay.
And it was night and day. Like the quality of the department, like one, I felt like the education we received in the EC department was a little, I mean, it's not necessarily outdated, but because a lot of that stuff was created a couple decades ago, it's like the way it's taught has was aged a little bit, I thought.
Yeah.
And they
No, I'd
didn't,
agree.
yeah, they didn't update that very recently. Whereas the CSE department, everything coming out had been developed, within 5 years before that, or like So it was all really new. The TAs were like extremely helpful for CSC, and it was just a really inclusive environment. And just it was interesting because the EC department, I mean, it's the Jacobs School of Engineering. I mean, the EC department for UCSD has got to be like its backbone,
It's top notch for sure.
top notch. And so like I I think that they can definitely put a little bit more effort or funding into assisting the undergrads.
Yeah, and I think Jacobs is the family that started or owns Qualcomm, and
Yes,
Qualcomm's like right up the street from UCSD, so they're just feeding money to like get these good electrical engineers out of the school to go work for Qualcomm. It's like a
absolutely.
machine for them.
Absolutely. Like right down the street, go there and pump them out as quick as possible.
Yeah.
So we'll see if anything, if they update their curriculum at all. So do you have any how do you balance like working and creating your own personal content? Is there any sort of balance or, way that you go about it? Or do you think that just creating your own sort of content and then also working, a professional career where you have to, do a 9 to 5 and show up Monday through Friday, has been pretty fluid for you?
Well, I guess with COVID hitting, I'm sitting home a lot, so a lot more time just showed up in my day. So last year, I was pumping like 3, 4 videos a week, and I did that consistent all throughout the year, and then I burned out because that was a lot of work to balance working, having a career, and then also just making these videos for fun. I kind of burned out, so I took a little break, and I had to reassess how can I like keep making these videos, but like not burn myself out and like lose interest in it and make it feel like a chore. So I'm still figuring that out, but more recently it's been I spend the week kind of planning the video, like what song am I going to use, how do I want it to flow, and I kind of plan out the video and what am I going to make. Like that's the hardest one is what am I going to cook because I'm always taking ideas from others, but it's just that's probably the hardest part is figuring out what to make. And then when the weekend comes, that's when I film. So either Saturday or Sunday, I'll spend anywhere from 3 to 4 hours filming, and then I'll edit. Monday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday night, I'll spend my time editing the video and like getting all the photos ready, getting the video ready, and then releasing it.
Wow. So it's you've come to like create your own process and then balance it out.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, for now, that's how it's working. So we'll see how long that goes, and then hopefully I can. I want to try to add more because right now I'm just putting out once a week. I'm trying to figure out maybe I can add a little something else throughout the week too. So trying to figure out what's the next thing I can add, but maintain what I've started and like not overdo it. So it's a constant struggle and play that I got to figure out what the right balance is going to be.
I'm sure you'll figure out what balance works best for you.
Yeah. I got a question for you though.
What's your question?
How'd the podcast come about? Because I love it.
The podcast, thank you for saying you love it. It came about, I tried it last year, uh and then I got, 10 episodes down and I stopped. And then I started back up because I just enjoy really my boss told me you need to be a better public speaker because I bombed an interview. Or not,
Okay.
it wasn't an interview, it was a meeting, it was a presentation, and he was like, you need to become a better public speaker. So I was like, all right, I'll restart my podcast. And so I did that, and it's enjoyable to listen to people and get people's input, find out, you know, something go pretty deep with them, because it's not possible anymore too much, especially with COVID over the last year, is like can't see anyone. That was one
Yeah.
reason. And two, I enjoy, you know, having this long forum, because you really get to know someone in an hour and a half. And sometimes, the conversation is very fluid, and then you get, you really have a enjoyable time. And then other times it's a lot more tough and daunting. And it's like you have to think about these questions as they come. And like it's, just like constantly playing out this way. Like it's similar to your recipe, or if you go out and before you go out for a shot, you have to think like, okay, I want it to start here, but then I eventually want it to transition into this and then end it here in this sort of way, not completely ad hoc. And
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, I just started it because it's fun.
Yeah. No, it is fun. It's nice to just be able to like sit and talk, you know?
Yes.
So I totally get it. And I like it because I've been seeing, people I haven't seen or talked to for years, and I see you like talking to them on your podcast. So it's pretty cool to. I thought it was a great idea. Just catch up with an old friend type thing, and it's just nice to really hear what's going on in people that we've grown up with, see what's going on in their lives, and just catch up with them. Basically, hear what's going on. So I
Abs-
thought I liked the idea, and like I hope you keep it up, man.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Do you have any last words or anything that you'd like to say to everyone?
I guess thanks to everyone who's like been watching my food videos. I love making it. I love food. Everyone loves food, and like I like to keep pumping these videos out. And I love when people message me and say, "Hey, try making this or try making that." I love to get ideas because it gets overwhelming. Like, what should I make? So if I have a big list of things to try making, and they're reasonable to make. Some are like hour long. I can't make a 10-hour long dish, but something I can make within a day or two, I'm all for it. And I love to get feedback from people and just keep it going, see where it goes.
Hell yeah. Well, thanks for coming on, Waleed.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you asking me to join.
Of course. You're very, I appreciate you putting out the content, and it's really inspiring.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. I like that. It means a lot to me.
You're welcome. All right. Well, have a good one.
Yeah. Are you just gonna end the recording, or are you just gonna hang up?
Oh, yeah. Just end the recording and then
Okay.
hang up. Usually you,
We'll talk after.
yeah, we'll talk after.
Yeah.
Later.
Later.